Hello everyone, with me today I've got Michael Vaughan. It's the Ashes. What else is there to talk about? So we're going to get into it a little bit. We're going to have a little bit of banter, a little bit of fun. But first of all, Vaughnie, why is the Ashes so important to an English player?
I think it's just the history and heritage of what the Ashes is, and the banter, the rivalry, a bit of hatred. You know, the baggy green being rammed down our throat for so many years. I think the fact that your team seemed to batter us every time that the England side went out there for 18 years near on, then we managed to just scrape over the line in 2005. I think it's just the England versus Australia rivalry. The supporters, the crowd, they all get stuck in. And whenever it's on, you just know that it's the only thing that anyone's talking about, and it's going to be no different this summer.
What about, I know for an Australian player, every 4 years we come to England and you have this opportunity to play at Lords with the history and the tradition, all that sort of stuff. And in recent times, England have started to not fear Australia. So is there a bit of superiority happening at the moment? I sense a little bit of confidence from England. I sense a bit of superiority. I sense a bit of these Aussies are no good.
Well, just remember, for 18 years we had it on the other foot. You know, you guys would arrive in England, you'd give it plenty. McGrath 5-0 every single time would be his press call. You're right, Lords is always this spectacular kind of event that the Aussies arrive, kind of raise their game. You play well at Lords. I just think you're in an era now that England have got better cricketers. In that era of 20 years, Australia had better cricketers. But it's always going to be competitive. I think whenever that first Test match starts, whatever the 11s are, everybody's going to raise the game. Every player kind of gets 10 or 15% more out of them. The pressures of the crowd, the media, you know, the media focus is always that much bigger and better. Back page, front page headlines. And it really is which players can cope with that. I just think at the minute, I hate to say it, England have just got better cricketers. I'm looking at your 11, it just looks, it looks average.
It's a bit of a concern. I know, if I look back to 2005 Ashes series, you did a great job as captain of England. You gelled all the boys together, but I think it really did capture everyone's imagination. It captured the public's imagination. Everyone, even people that didn't like cricket, got involved. And I think the Ashes means so much more to both Australian and English people because we are quite similar. We do like to take the mickey. We do like the banter. We like all those sorts of things. And I think Australia, they really have to lift. What would you, as captain, as a great captain for England, what would you say to Australia? What do you think they need to do?
If I was Australia, I'd look at two series. 89 when you came out here.
Yep.
You know, England were in a similar position to what they are now. They'd won in Australia, again speaking very confidently, and they raised the game. You know, the likes of Steve Warne, Mark Taylor came over here and kind of young stars that really lifted the Australian team. I think you're going to need 4 or 5 of the Australian side this time to do exactly the same. I'd look at 2005, the way that we kind of came out and played an aggressive brand of cricket against, you know, the likes of yourself, McGrath, Gilly, Hayden, Langer. I think Australia should do that to the England side now. They're on the back foot. They've lost the last 2 Ashes series quite convincingly. Yeah. You know, in 10-11 in Australia, England were just the better side in all facets of the game. And I really think Australia have got nothing to lose. You know, if you put too much pressure on yourself, you're not going to come and play with any kind of natural talent. If I was the Aussies, I'd say, right, youngsters, go out and play. Just go and attack the England team. You've got a bowling attack that's pretty strong. You're batting top 6. I'll ask you, what is going to be a top 6?
Well, to me, that looks like it's a real issue that the selectors don't know either because they've picked a squad. They've picked 5 openers. So there's no need to pick 5 openers. To me, you say, this is our best 11. This is our backup opener. This is our backup middle order. This is our backup bowlers. And I don't think they've actually put the squad together like that. They've just tried to put 16 cricketers together and say, well, these we think are the best we've got. And then we're going to try and shuffle everyone, which means people are going to bat out of position. David Warner might even bat down in the middle order. Phil Hughes might bat 4. I just think it's crazy the way they've selected the side. But having said that, I think the selectors have actually put together a half-decent squad. I think they have got enough players there that can challenge England and surprise England. But I think the first 2 Test matches are so important. That's why I think whenever any opportunity they get in the Champions Trophy of any of the tournaments, they've got to try and nail England and set the tone. They just have to come out and play. For me, I think Warner and Watson have to open. That's mine. I think Chris Rogers should bat 3. Michael Clark can bat 4, probably Khawaja 5, then I'd go Wade and Haddon at 6 and 7. There's no reason 2 keepers can't play. One only keeps and the other one can bat and field. And then our bowlers. I think Australia's bowling is quite good. I think can cause England some headaches. But I think the batting's a real worry. If Michael Clark and Watson don't get runs, I think Australia are going to be lots of trouble.
What about 20 years ago? You arrived on the Ashes stage with that delivery to Mike Gatting. Yeah. Big drifter, big spinner, the big fella just missed it, top of our stump. Which of the Aussie stars this year could do a similar thing, arrive on the Ashes stage with the same kind of impact?
Well, the one standout player for me in the squad, and I think the big future in Australian cricket, is James Faulkner. I think he's got something about him. He's got a lot of heart, he's got a lot of ticker, he wants the ball in his hand at any stage. If he walks out to bat, you need 12 and over. He still thinks he can get him. He's just a class act. I think Faulkner will really make a name for himself in this trip. I think Michael Clarke will establish himself as one of the greats of Australian cricket. I think he's been a fantastic player, a good captain. I think he'll become a great after this series. But when you start to look through the rest, there's not too many other standout players. I think Darren Pattinson's the only, young Pattinson's the only other, James Pattinson, sorry, is the only other player to me that could be a superstar. He bowls 150 kilometres an hour. He's aggressive. So I think Pattinson and Faulkner are the two standouts for me.
What about the spin department? I see a fast,
it's bare.
A fast
it's very thin and bare. Not
You're
like...
doing what England are doing. You're getting them for overseas. Stop copying us.
Well, the South Africans are all injured, so you guys can't pick them. But I tell you what, this young Ahmed the leggy, he's actually very, very good. It's a good story with him, but we've got to be the only country in the world that wouldn't rush it through. They're saying, no, there's a process. He might not be able to play. There's a lot of other people first, but get him in. Get him in, he's good. Got a good wrong-un. You blokes don't play spin very well, Sue, so get him in there.
Well, let's not mention your batting against spin. What do you reckon, prediction-wise?
Well, my heart says Australia can actually surprise England, but with my head and thinking about it, I think England I think their bowling will be too strong for our batting, and I think if Michael Clarke and Watson don't get runs and the rest chip in, I don't think we can post enough runs. So, to me, I think England are probably favourites and will win the series, but I'm hoping Australia will surprise.
Well, I just think...
You're going to do McGrath, 5-0,
It won't be 5-0 because England won't play aggressively enough to win 5-0. They'll probably get 2-0 ahead and then just sit and play a very calm game and put all the men behind the ball. I think in English conditions, you look at the England attack, I just don't think your batsmen will get enough runs. I actually think in Australia, 2 back-to-back Ashes series, in Australia, with Australians bowling attack and your batting being more used to your conditions, I think in Australia it's going to be a lot tighter than it was in 10-11 because of the likes of Pattinson, as you mentioned, Faulkner, Starks bowling quickly. You'll wheel out Johnson at Perth as he always does, and he'll bowl England out. You know, if Farid Ahmed can come out and just bowl a few. In Australia, I do think Australia will be more competitive, but in England, I hate to say it, you've got no chance.
I don't know about no chance. We can surprise. We can do all right, hopefully.